All right, what's up everyone out here on my 2020 1290 KTM. Just got my service light for my 620 mile interval, so need to do the oil change. So just out here warming it up, then I'll head back and do the oil change. Should be fairly simple. So let's dive into the oil change. All right, so first we're going to start with, what do you need? You'll need some Motorex 10W50 oil, a ratchet, 3/8 inch. I use an extension, and then a 13 millimeter, an 8 millimeter. I prefer the T-handle to get off the oil filter. Needle nose pliers, which I use to get out the old filter. You'll need a new oil filter, and then some brake clean to clean up any oil that gets on the pipe. All right, so first step is to get this guard off, if you still have the stock guard. I personally waited to put on my skid plate just because it's more of a pain to take back off. So I kind of kept it easy for the first 620 miles, and then I'll take this off, and then after this oil change, I'll put on my skid plate. I'm gonna take these two 8 millimeters out and get this guard off. All right, so with the guard off, you can get to your bolts. It's going to be 1, 2, and then your oil filter is here, 3, 4. So one thing that you do want to make sure before changing the oil is you either heat up the bike or take a quick ride. That way that oil is nice and hot and you can get all that old stuff out of there. All right, so after you have your bike warmed up, you can go ahead and drain the oil. All right, so we got 1, 2. Both of those bolts will be 13 millimeters. All right, so after you drain both of those, you can move on to the oil filter. Take your 8 millimeter. Pop this cover off. And you take your needle nose and just insert them in here and pull it out just like that. So while that is draining, you want to go ahead and get everything cleaned up. You want to clean off the cover for the oil filter. You want to clean up both of these screens. I know they sell a whole kit with new ones of these. It is not needed. Just get them cleaned up and inspect them for any damage. But especially after 620 miles, there's not going to be any issues with them. All right, so when I did take that other bolt, a little bit of oil, it was hard to get into the oil pan. Don't worry, I got a special tool that sucks up all the oil that spilled. It was minimal, but that's why I do suggest going over to Teal Wheeled Riders page and check out this little trick to avoid any oil spilling. Another thing I like to do to make sure all the oil out is I do move the bike back to the right side and then back over to the drain side, just to kind of make sure that we're getting all the oil out of there. All right, so once you don't see any more oil coming out, you can go ahead and clean everything up, make sure there's no oil residue left, and then reinstall everything. So you do want to really clean down here. I'm not sure if you can see this really well, but there's a magnet down here, and there was definitely a little bit of shavings in there from the break-in. So you want to make sure you get that super clean. All right, so when you do put these back in, just make sure not to mix them up because they are exactly the same. I always like to hand tighten everything. It is kind of some soft metal. So you just want to make sure you have everything lined up and you don't strip anything. All right, make sure you put the oil filter in as you remember when you took it out. You can always kind of remember it where you have this piece because you need the pliers to bring it back out. So that's the kind of an easy way to make sure that you're putting it in the right way. Make sure it seats in there, and then you can put the cap on. So do make sure that you lube the O-ring before you put it on the cap, and then you can put that back together. All right, definitely make sure you hand thread these in. Once again, soft metal. I am Captain Strip Bolts, and this is the last place you really want to strip anything. So just be real careful. Make sure everything starts nice and straight, and hand tight it down. Alright, so now you're going to want to torque everything down. So both of these drain plug bolts are 20 Newton meters, or 14.8 pounds of torque. And then the bolts for holding on the filter are 6 Newton meters, or 4.4 pounds. So very light. You want to be careful that you don't strip these out. Everything's torqued up. You know, it helps to drain it on the side stand. It's not necessary you can put it on the center stand, but you definitely want to put it on the center stand when you're adding the oil. Make sure it's on level ground, so that way you get the right measurement on the sight glass. Alright, so here's the filler cap for the oil. Go ahead and take that off, and then you're going to add 3 liters or 3.2 quarts to get started. After you get the 3 liters in there, or the 3.2 quarts, you can go ahead and put the cap back on and then get her fired up. Warming up, and it's a good time to check for any leaks, make sure everything looks good, there's no oil coming out anywhere. You can remove the cover and then add the remaining amount, which is 0.6 liters. You do want to just be careful on this. You know, if you were impatient before and didn't get all the oil out, you know, 0.6 liters, you know, could be a little different. So as you're filling up, just keep an eye on the sight glass and make sure you have the right amount. You're going to want it just shy of the top, and I can show a picture from the manual of exactly where you want it. When you're looking here, you'll see these notches, and it's the last notch that you want the oil level to be at, and then you'll be good to go. After you start it, just make sure that the level stays the same. Then you can put in on your engine guard. I'm going to skip that step because I'm going to install a skid plate, and you'll see that in a later video. Last step is you want to reset your service on your computer, so that way you're ready for next time, and I'll link that up in a real short video for those that want to see that part. But thanks for tuning in on this oil change video on my 2020 KTM 1290 Adventure R. I'll catch you all next time.